Now, I've been using that 2 + 2 = 4 to start the following conversation on economics. I'll just give this because it's a wonderful tool. I tell every audience, I'm going to give you half of a sentence. You give me the other half. And it's exactly like 2 + 2 = 4. If you can't afford to buy a house, what's the second half? How many of you agree if you can't afford to buy a house, don't buy it? Raise your hand. I'm serious. Now think about this. For 25 years, we've lived a lie. For 25 years, the official policy of the United States has been if you can't afford to buy a house, we won't look at your credit rating, we won't require a down payment, we won't make you pay any capital, any principal for 3 years, we'll give you a below-market interest rate. You do that to one person, they go bankrupt, it's a personal tragedy. You do it to 1 million people, it's a national crisis. Yet have you heard any national political leader say, you know, the entire economic problem we've got right now is a cultural problem. We don't want to reward saving and investing. We don't want to reward working. We don't want to encourage being prudent. We don't want to tell the truth about your finances. We don't want to make you be a responsible adult. And you think you can run a country this way? So now let me apply 2 + 2 = 4 to our current problem. There's more and more evidence coming out that the deeply troubled non-Rotarian who killed a number of Americans at Fort Hood. I'm only using politically acceptable language. We realize, many of you will understand that recently when we've arrested people in Denver, Detroit, and New York, as well as the troubled person in Fort Hood, they all shared one common characteristic. They did not belong to Rotary. And so I've begun to develop a brand new profiling system built around non-Rotarians. Because I wouldn't want to have any kind of profiling system which was politically insensitive, lacked clarity, or focused in on things like, it's turning out this guy was routinely communicating with a radical cleric in Yemen. And the National Security Agency knew it. And the FBI knew it. And they were all standing around going, well, maybe it's a research project. Now, maybe before 9/11, you could say maybe it's a research project. This is madness. And now you have an Attorney General whose basic position is, let's have a public trial under American criminal defense models with their lawyers having access or demanding access or suggesting access. Frankly, somebody should introduce a resolution of impeachment. This is a... Let me try to illustrate my point, because I think it's why the concept of replace rather than reform is so important. I don't want to be told that appointing an Attorney General whose law firm was pro bono defending terrorists makes sense. I don't want to be told that when he appoints lawyers whose law firms defended terrorists pro bono, it makes sense. I don't want to be told that people who care more about the rights of terrorists than the lives of Americans should be allowed to serve in the Justice Department of the United States. One of the reasons the American people have not yet mobilized to the full power of their sovereign capacity is because they don't yet have leadership that's prepared to say, this is real. I mean, if you believe this is real, and you believe we could lose an entire city, and you believe that these people are needlessly endangering the United States, then we need to establish in the House and Senate, and we need to establish across the country, a standard of behavior which makes it clear that this is not a game, this is not politics, this is not business as usual. And I'll give you one closing example. I believe we need a profound fight about religious liberty. I believe that fight became unavoidable when the Ninth Circuit Court ruled that saying one nation under God as part of the pledge was unconstitutional. I believe it is a sign of a fascist mentality that the ACLU has filed a lawsuit about a cross in the middle of the Mojave Desert. I mean, the idea that a cross in the middle of the desert is a threat to the mindset of secular fanatics tells you almost everything you need to know. And I'm a historian, so my reaction to this is to read history. In 1802, the Jeffersonians passed the Judiciary Act of 1802. Jefferson knew a fair amount about the Constitution. Madison knew vastly more. They were both in the administration. The Judiciary Act of 1802 abolishes 18 out of 35 federal judges. Doesn't impeach them, abolishes them. Says, we're not paying you. You can't go to, there's no court. Several of them said this was inappropriate, it's a lifetime appointment. They went to the remaining 17 judges to file suit, and the remaining 17 judges said, have you lost your mind? If I accept the suit, they're going to abolish my court. This is, by the way, precisely what Hamilton and Madison wrote in the Federalist Papers, that any time the weakest of the three branches takes on the two elected branches, if the two elected branches are serious, they will in fact guarantee the defeat of the judicial branch. Now, as many of you know, I am a moderate. So I would only propose not to abolish over half of all the judges, which is what Jefferson did. I would merely propose to abolish the Ninth Circuit and re-recruit. Because if we're serious, that's the right reaction. You show me a judge so ignorant they believe that it's unconstitutional to say one nation under God, I'll show you a judge who shouldn't be drawing money from the taxpayers. It's a very straightforward relationship. And remember, in closing, the reason I wrote a wonderful book that Gay helped inspire at Mount Vernon, To Try Men's Souls, is because we thought, when we sat down and discussed it a year and a half ago, that we would get to a point where we'd have high unemployment, foreign enemies, and a radical administration. And people would want to know, what is it Americans once did? And how is it we became American? And on Christmas Day, 1776, Washington's army had collapsed from 30,000 Brooklyn in September to 2,500. Less than 1 out of every 1,000 Americans had the courage to be with Washington on Christmas Day. Of that 2,500, 1/3 did not have boots. They wrapped their feet in burlap and they left a trail of blood marching the 9 miles to Trenton. Washington decided to cross an icy river at night in a snowstorm, to march at night to surprise 800 professional German soldiers, win a surprise victory, capture all 800, and reestablish the legitimacy of the revolution. 2 weeks later, he had 15,000 volunteers. The password that night was victory or death. I want you to go from here after this weekend and look every successful person you know in the eye, and look every patriot you know in the eye, and tell them they're young men and women risking their lives all around this planet, in uniform, in the State Department, in the intelligence community, so we can be free. Don't tell me how much you've given. Don't tell me how tired you are. Don't tell me how frustrating it is. This country was created by people who are willing to say victory or death while marching in burlap bags in the middle of a snowstorm. We're going to have to find those people again. We're going to have to run people for 513,000 offices in both parties. We're going to have to isolate and crush the secular socialist left, and we're going to have to replace their failed system with systems that succeed. This is work George Washington would have approved of. And this is work you need to take seriously for the next 3 years so we can give our children and grandchildren the greatest, freest, and most prosperous country in history. Thank you very, very much.